Hey, this is Daniel Gonzalez with Preferred Flooring from Grand Rapids, Michigan, and I just busted out some linoleum today so we can talk about linoleum weld. And I wanted to go over some options with you guys that we have available. There's a few routers available. This is one of them. Wolff makes a great router. We don't use auto groovers much, but when we do, this is the one that we do use. Turbo Tools has their own routers, and it's actually a 2-pass system, so that way the first pass gets down. It has a tip on it so it can follow the seam. Then the second pass, you can see that that one is rounded out, so that follows the groove, and this blade is smaller so it doesn't dig into the material more, it just gets down to the jute. We also have the old trusty pull groover that a lot of guys like using, especially on linoleum. So we're gonna go over some of these options and get some stuff welded up. So this router or auto groover here has a blade in it, almost similar to a skill saw, where the blade is gonna rotate and it's gonna take that up. It's gonna shoot the remnants up here into the bag, so that way you keep your work site kind of clean. You can actually hook up a vacuum to this as well if you wanted to keep it cleaner. So this wheel will follow in the seam. This one, once you get it grooved a little bit, is going to follow in that groove, so that way you can keep straight. And you can see once we doesn't need to come out very far since this material is fairly thin. We use this a lot for protect all. You adjust the depth on it right here, so that way it's pretty easy to just spin the knob and get the desired depth. Our goal right now is to get down to the jute backing. We're gonna see how this works on here because this board isn't completely flat. The one thing with auto welders that we don't really like is that you can't get to the end of a run, especially if you have like a wall there or something. But also, if there's any undulations in the floor, this blade is pretty unforgiving and it's gonna keep on cutting regardless. Just make sure these are lined up. Take a look at it. We got one look in there and make sure that we're actually getting to the jute backing. What I'd like to do is I like to take just a scribe. You can kind of pull on there and you'll be able to feel and hear the jute. Do one more. We'll set it a little deeper. You have the Turbo Tools 2-pass system. Requires no preheating of the material, so we'll get this one demonstrated for you guys. First pass, second pass. Do the second pass just to make it deeper, to get to all the way to that jute. That weld needs something to stick to. Actually gonna set this one a hair deeper as well. This one, just Allen key, and then you push the blade. Like I said, this one is a 2.5 millimeter blade, and on the first pass they have a 3 millimeter blade in there, or 3.5. Do the second pass, see how it looks this time. Now the third option that we use is the pull groover, and this is, excuse me, what they use when we went through the 4-bolt class. It's one of the most widely used tools, and as long as you get lined up right, it works pretty good. So when you're doing the pull groover, you're going to want to have your heat gun nearby, so that way you can preheat the material to make it easier to route. You're going to want to line up your straight edge, so that way the blade is going to straddle both of them. That way you get even route on each side of the material. See how much longer this one takes, since this is not the method I'm used to using, but you can keep on going over the spots to make sure you get to that jute, to make sure the entire thing is going to be sticking. I'll actually use this to finish off the couple welds from the auto groover as well. I'm not going to do the other side, but you get the idea of how you have to finish those off with the auto groover. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get a close-up on all these so you can actually see the jute down there and what it's supposed to look like, so you can have a strong weld. This is the first one that we did with the auto router. You can see that. You can see the jute. You can feel the jute. This is the second one when I made it a little bit deeper. See those fibers coming through. This is the first one with the turbo tools. Can definitely see them standing out. This is the second one. This is with the hand router. I'm not the best with the hand router, with the pull groover, but you can see the jute and everything. So we're gonna throw some weld in it and see how it goes. When you're welding linoleum, it's really easy to tell that you have the right type of weld rod by the way it rips apart. So linoleum, rubber, and vinyl weld will all rip apart a different way. So linoleum will have a little nub on it, like this. Rubber weld will get super stringy on you. And vinyl weld will have a cleaner tear on it. This one actually stretched more than I thought it was going to, but you don't see any nubs. You don't see it super stringy. It's another linoleum weld. Same thing, little nubs. So linoleum weld goes in. It's pretty much a a glue stick, and that's why we need the jute showing on the bottom, because that gives it something to actually stick to. It'll bond with the jute fibers because it's not gonna bond to the linoleum product itself because it's a natural product. So it's a glorified glue stick. And this is where a lot of the failures come from, is people not going deep enough to get to that jute backing in order to get the weld to stick. And then you see a lot of welds popping out, and the customer always blames the material, but linoleum is actually a great product, and you just have to know how to install it right. And that's what we've been dealing with in the industry, is a lot of people that say they know how to do things and they don't. And then manufacturers get blamed for something that the installers did, when the installer just didn't have the right knowledge to install the product in the first place. So this is the welder I'm going to use today. Has the turbo tip on it, the super turbo nozzle, and I love this one for rubber and linoleum. Once you get into the vinyls and the stuff with the urethane wear layer, you're going to want to switch to a different head, but this one is great for linoleum and rubber. Linoleum weld, this 4-bar weld will tell you right on it that you need to be at least 350 degrees Celsius, but the new guns run in Fahrenheit, from around 750 degrees Fahrenheit. We'll let this heat up, and then we'll throw some welding. This nozzle is made to be used in conjunction with the roller guide. That way you have all the nozzles lined up all at the same time. If you start doing this, you get a chance of burning some material. When I'm welding, when I start welding, I like to push it through while I'm pulling back, and then we put our finger on it right away to make sure that end stays down. This is what I like to use for the first pass. It saves Mozart blades, and it saves your half moon knives from actually having to contact the metal on the first pass on this, so that way you're not putting burrs and stuff on your knife. Notice I'm putting my finger down on there and on the end as well. So I slow down a little bit, push down, bring it out, put your finger down to make sure it gets tacked in place. Now each color actually burns a little bit differently, and when I say burn, I mean melt it in a little bit differently. So this one, I burned them all at the same temperature. This one was fairly decent. When I put the green in, it actually started melting a lot faster than the beige, and then the brown, it was melting a lot slower than all of them. Now we just have to wait for those to cool and do a final pass on them. There's a couple of different options there as well, because we have the traditional half moon knife, and then we have the Mozart. So we'll go over both options in a second. Alright, it's been about 10 minutes, so they should be sufficiently cooled down in order to do the final pass on them. The Mozart knife has a blade, and the only thing that you're going to have the actual blade on is the weld itself, so it's pretty safe to use. When you're doing this one, you got this entire area that's going to be going across the material, and if there's any burrs or snags in your knife, you're going to see that scratching the material. So I'll just show you how both of them work. Pretty simple for the Mozart. Gives a nice cut. It's pretty smooth. You see where I dug out a little bit too much with the half moon knife, and that could be because we're on wood that's not adhered to anything, so could have been up in that spot. It's all in what you're comfortable with. You can use this, you can use that. There's Turbo has their turbo planer that does both passes at the same time, and Mozart actually makes a double one with a handle on it where you stand up and you can run it. I like to get a little bit more personal to make sure everything's smooth. It's not going to collect dirt. Nothing is raised up. And you have a beautiful flat weld. Sometimes you run into an area like this. I'm pretty sure I'm on a huge hump. You can see that. But it made me not be able to get all of this. So just take your moon knife. That gets rid of the wash that was stuck there on the side. That's how you get welds for linoleum that last a long time. Of course, it's better when you actually are on solid flooring. These are the finished welds. You can kind of see on this one. Right here is where that part was up just a hair. So we actually took a little bit of that finish off. Another part right there.
inch. That's why it's very important to get all the way to that jute, so that way the weld has something to stick to.